The nurse was still explaining the risks when my wife said it. Figure it out yourself. She did not raise her voice. She did not look angry. She simply adjusted the strap of her handbag and looked at me as if the solution were obvious. My mother was 82 years old. She had fallen in her bathroom and fractured her hip. Her breathing was uneven, her body fragile beneath hospital sheets. And in that narrow corridor, under harsh fluorescent lights, I realized something inside my marriage had quietly broken. The nurse cleared her throat and continued speaking, as if she had not heard the sentence that had just rearranged my life. She cannot go home alone, the nurse said gently. Not after this. She will need assistance. Possibly for several weeks. I nodded. That part was clear. I turned to Anika and told her we would need to rearrange things. I suggested we move my mother into the guest room temporarily. It was the simplest solution. Anika's expression did not change. I have meetings all week, she said. I cannot manage this. We will adjust, I replied. She looked at me directly. I married you, she said calmly. Not this. Not this. The choice of words was precise. Detached. I did not respond. Not in the hospital hallway. Not with my mother 10 feet away, listening through a half-closed door. On the drive home, the silence felt deliberate. Not awkward. Not emotional. Intentional. Streetlights slid across the windshield in slow intervals. Light. Darkness. Light again. You always do this, Anika said finally. Do what? You let her needs take over everything. She is 82. And we are in our 30s, she replied. We are supposed to be building something. That word stayed with me. Building. As if my mother were an obstacle to construction. We had been married 6 years. Our life had been clean and structured. 2 incomes. No children. Planned investments. Scheduled vacations. Strategic decisions. Anika believed in momentum. In moving forward. In growth charts and 5-year projections. My mother believed in tea at 4 o'clock. In keeping old photo albums. In holding on to furniture that still worked. They represented 2 different speeds of life. I had assumed they could coexist. That night after we returned home, Anika went straight to her office and closed the door. I stood in the kitchen alone, staring at the guest room hallway. It would have been simple. Move a bed. Adjust the schedule. Make space. But it was not about space. It was about willingness. The next morning, I woke early and returned to the hospital alone. My mother was awake, staring at the ceiling. She does not want me there, does she? She asked quietly. I sat beside her and told her not to worry. She watched my face carefully. You do not need to protect me from the truth, she said. I smiled slightly. You need to focus on getting better. She reached for my hand. Do not choose me out of guilt, she whispered. It struck me that she assumed she was the burden. That idea had not come from her. Later that afternoon, the doctor confirmed she would be discharged within 48 hours. She would require mobility support and monitoring. Nothing extreme. Just presence. I called Anika. We need to talk about arrangements, I said. I told you, she replied. I cannot take this on. It is temporary. You always say temporary, she said. Temporary becomes permanent. There was something rehearsed about her tone. I asked about hiring help. Use the savings, she said quickly. The speed of her answer caught my attention. Anika was careful with money. She preferred long discussions before any withdrawal larger than a utility bill. That evening, I opened our joint account. The balance was significantly lower than I remembered. There were multiple large transfers made over the past 2 months, all directed to an account labeled under a consultancy firm I did not recognize. The total amount equaled nearly half our liquid savings. I did not confront her immediately. Instead, I printed the statements and placed them neatly into a folder. Calm observation reveals more than confrontation ever will. The following day, I made a decision without discussion. I brought my mother home to her own house. I arranged part-time nursing care for mornings and adjusted my schedule to cover evenings. It was manageable. When Anika realized I had not brought my mother into our home, she called immediately. So you solved it, she said. Yes. That is not what I meant. I know. Her voice tightened. You are choosing her. I am choosing stability. She ended the call without another word. Over the next week, small inconsistencies accumulated. Anika began coming home later. She mentioned new projects, new clients, new responsibilities. She seemed distracted even when present. One evening, while she was in the shower, her phone lit up repeatedly on the bathroom counter. I had no intention of invading her privacy. but the screen illuminated long enough for me to read a message preview. Rohan. Did he agree to sell it? I memorized the sentence. Rohan was a real estate consultant we had met 3 months earlier. Anika had arranged the meeting, claiming it was only exploratory. She said it was wise to know market values. The timing aligned precisely with the first unexplained transfer in our bank account. The next morning, I requested a private meeting with him. His office was minimal and modern. Glass walls, neutral art, carefully curated plants. He greeted me warmly and asked if Anika would be joining. She is not aware of this meeting, I said. His smile shifted slightly. He informed me that Anika had indicated we were preparing to list my mother's property. Preliminary paperwork had already been drafted, without my signature. When I inquired about the financial transfers, he explained that Anika had invested early into a new residential development. She wanted priority allocation before public launch. How much? I asked. He told me the exact figure. The amount was not just significant. It was deliberate. When I returned home that evening, Anika was waiting at the dining table. Her laptop was open, but the screen was dark. I cannot live like this, she began. I feel like I am competing with your mother. You invested half our savings without discussion, I said calmly. It was an opportunity. You tried to sell her house. It is practical. She cannot manage it long term. You encouraged her to transfer ownership, did you not? Her eyes sharpened. She trusts me, she said. That was not an answer. 2 days later, the final piece fell into place. My mother asked me to retrieve some documents from her bedroom drawer. She said she wanted me to understand her arrangements. Inside was her updated will. 3 months earlier, she had transferred full ownership of her house to Anika. Not shared ownership. Not conditional. Complete transfer. She said it would simplify things for both of you, my mother explained. I did not want to be a problem. There was no anger in her voice. Only sincerity. In that moment, I understood the architecture of what had been happening. If the property were sold, the funds would legally belong to Anika. If my mother required long-term care, financial control would shift accordingly. It was not impulsive. It was strategic. That evening, I placed the will carefully on our dining table. Anika looked at it and then at me. Did you suggest this transfer? I asked. She hesitated. I may have mentioned that it would be efficient. Efficient for whom? For us, she said. I studied her expression. There was no guilt, only justification. I will have it amended, I said quietly. You cannot, she replied immediately. It is legal. She is alive, I said. She can change it. Her composure began to thin. You are overreacting. No, I answered. I am observing. She accused me of choosing my mother over our marriage. I told her I was choosing alignment between values and actions. She laughed softly. Values do not fund retirement, she said. That was the moment I felt something definitive settle inside me. Not anger. Resolution. The following morning, I met with an attorney. We restored full ownership of the house to my mother. We began separating finances. I filed for legal separation shortly after. When I informed Anika, she did not cry. She did not beg. She simply asked if I was certain. Yes, I said. Weeks passed. My mother slowly regained mobility. Physical therapy sessions filled our mornings. We developed a new routine that felt steady, almost peaceful. One evening, she asked whether she had destroyed my marriage. I told her the truth. No. It revealed what was already there. News eventually reached me that the development project Anika had invested in faced legal complications. Construction halted. Investors withdrew. Lawsuits began circulating. I felt no satisfaction. Only confirmation that caution is rarely wasted. Now, months later, I sit on the porch of my mother's house in the early evenings. The air is warm. The street is quiet. Inside, I can hear her moving slowly through the kitchen, preparing tea. There is no tension in this house. No negotiation disguised as love. My marriage did not end with shouting. It ended with clarity. Sometimes betrayal does not arrive dramatically. It arrives in practical language, in efficient decisions, in quiet redirections of money and ownership. And sometimes love reveals itself not in romance, but in responsibility. I often think back to that hospital corridor. To the moment she said, "Figure it out yourself." She was right. I did. I figured out what mattered. I figured out who I was willing to become. And I figured out that loyalty is not proven when life is easy. It is proven when inconvenience enters the room. If you were in my place, would you have walked away? or fought.